Hagiz yet inside the series, that I thought we'll dedicate a video with regards to the famous rabbi. He passed away in the year 1750. Now, I'm not too sure the exact date he passed away, so naturally we're not necessarily recording this at the time of the Hilula of the great Chacham, but be it as may, he was a very, very famous rabbi. Now, I believe he was born back in the year 1671, and he passed away in 1750. He was a great rabbi, a Talmudic scholar. He was a writer, he was an author, and he was born in the holy city of Jerusalem, naturally, especially during the time of the old Yishuv. He was actually well documented that he was one of the most, let's say, prominent and influential Jewish leaders, especially during the late 1600s, early 1700s, in Amsterdam, respectively. They say that during Rabbi Hagiz's lifetime, there was an overall decline at that point in time, let's say, rabbinical authority, which was, let's say, result of migration and various assimilation that took place. And Rabbi Hagiz devoted his career to restoring, let's say, brilliance in rabbinic authority. They say that his prominent talent was as a polemicist, and he, let's say, was a big campaigner against, let's say, Jewish heresy at that time, in an attempt, let's say, to unify the rabbinates at that point in time. And we're going to speak about the Shabtai, which very much he would take a very, very tough stance on, and we're going to explore that later on. He actually passed away in 1750 in Tzfat, which was at the time the part of the Ottoman Empire, just like he was born in Jerusalem at the time of the Ottoman Empire, respectively. Now let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, he was born, his father was a great rabbi. We actually did a special video about his father last night, Rabbi Hagiz. And I believe Rabbi Moshe Hagiz was only a few years old when his father passed away, sadly. Afterwards, he was educated by his maternal grandfather, the famous Rabbi Moshe Galante, rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before. I think he had prominent head roles in Jerusalem. After, I think it was in the year 1698, Rabbi Moshe Galante passed away. I think Rabbi Hagiz found himself, let's say, under different circumstances in Livorno. I think he would spend a window of time in Livorno before that, while he was with his grandfather, and he would go to Tzfat, and over there he would be in Tzfat for a window of time, and eventually he would return to Jerusalem. And it was reported over that when he got to Jerusalem, he was given letters of recommendation which nominated him as a rabbinical emissary, as we'll call it, a shadar in Hebrew. And this will obviously, he was sent to obtain, let's say, support for Bet Midrash, study hall, which I think he actually helped them establish. He had the central role. He was involved in, let's just say, building Torah institutions. So he'd actually go out as a rabbinic emissary. Everyone would actually recommend him. And remember, to be a shadar, rabbinic emissary, was a, let's say, a top position. It just showed the status of the great rabbi in of itself. And it's reported over, there was a man with the name Abraham Nathan, gave him 30,000 thalers to deposit at Livorno for this specific purpose. Actually, he would arrive at Livorno. Remember, this would be as a role representing to help fundraise, strengthen the Torah structure over there, and multiple purposes. He would secure from a person, Viga, I think he was a philanthropist, if I'm not mistaken, the protector of his family, a promise of, let's say, further support. But unfortunately, at that point in time, there was a lot of, just like there was anti-Semitism, there was different problems that arose at that point in time. He would go through Italy, and I think he would come to Venice in the year 1704, and over there, he would then later on travel to Amsterdam, where he would actually educate in regards to Torah, and he was involved very much with the publication of various different Torah writings he involved himself with. And remember, he was a very great rabbi. His stature as a rabbi was really increasing at that point in time. He wrote a lot of Torah books and was really, really brilliant. Now, once he got to Amsterdam, he became close with another famous rabbi, Rabbi Tzvi Ashkenazi, who was an Ashkenazic rabbi of the congregation over there, also popularly known as Chacham Tzvi over there. And at that point in time, Rabbi Moshe Hagiz, he was really fighting against all the heresy that was going on. And there was a man of the name Nehemiah Hayon, who was a Sabbatean at that point in time. Arguably, you could say was on a very heretical level. So Rabbi Moshe Hagiz would actually consult very much with the Chacham Tzvi, Rabbi Tzvi Ashkenazi, with regards to this, and they would take steps over there, let's just say, in order to warn the people, to put Menehemi Hayon in excommunication. However, at that point in time, not everyone necessarily was with the great rabbis on this case. They didn't necessarily support their warnings at the end, and this would actually result in the Chacham Tzvi, Rabbi Tzvi Ashkenazi, having to leave Amsterdam in 1714. And obviously this would also cause problems for Rabbi Moshe Hagiz, albeit they were 100% right in putting Nehemiah Hayon with into excommunication. There was this window of time that caused them problems because some of the people in that vicinity in Amsterdam would actually support Nehemiah Hayon at that point in time. It was until 1738, it was reported that he resided at Altona. He would then return to Palestine and would then first be in the area of Sidon and later would move to Tzfat. I believe it's reported that he passed away around the time period of 1750. That's actually interesting. He got married to the daughter of Rabbi Raphael Mordechai Malachi. So that made him the brother-in-law of the famous Rabbi Hezkiah de Silva. Is reported over. He was also the author of the great Torah book called the Pri Chadash, respectively, a book that we learn about very much in the Code of Jewish Law, Shulchan Aruch. Now, let's talk more about the anti-Sabbateanism of his structure and himself. From an early age, Rabbi Hagiz was exposed, he would be exposed to Sabbatean and anti-Sabbatean leaders over there. They say Moshe's father, Rabbi Yaakov Hagiz, was a leading rabbi in Jerusalem in 1666 and he issued a ban against Shabbat. His teacher, Rabbi Avram Yitzchaki, was a fierce anti-Sabbatean after the father-in-law, Rabbi Raphael Moshe Mordechai Malachi, maybe saw what was going on with Sabbateans also, and led to robust discussion with Rav Hagiz. And Rav Moshe would actually have to travel after leaving Jerusalem, and very much this would, cause a lot of stress. Rav Hagiz would end up in Amsterdam, and he became, involved in disputes at that point in time with the Sephardic lay leadership over there, because remember they had connections with Nehemiah Hayon. He criticized Rav Moshe Hagiz, their lax religious observance, but obviously there was room for improvement, and their anti-rabbinic attitudes, because remember when Nehemiah Hayon arrived in Amsterdam and the Sephardic community would agree to publish Nehemiah Hayon's books at that point in time, albeit they might not have known the dangers within regards to Nehemiah Hayon. Now Rav Hagiz, with the help of the Chacham Tzvi, as we said before, began a crusade against this Sabbateanism that was taking place over there. And at that point in time, the Sephardic leadership, the community's rabbi was Rav Solomon Ailon. He would support Hayon at that point in time, and the lay leadership would eventually, issue bans against those that associated with Rabbi Hagiz over there. This, rabbinate lay leadership at that point in time, the battle soon involved rabbis from all over Europe, as Rabbi Hagiz rallied the rabbis against Hayon, Nehemiah Hayon, perhaps as part of his life goal, or his goal in of itself was to re-establish rabbinic supremacy in Jewish affairs. Now, Rabbi Hagiz would encounter him again, I think, later on, with those fights against various different Sabbateans in the 1720s and 1730s. And Hayon and Rabbi Hagiz wrote many books attacking each other on both personal and theosophical bases. Remember, at the end, I think it becomes known that Nehemiah Hayon was a heretic in all circles. Now, it's actually interesting. Rabbi Moshe Hagiz was instrumental in Eastern European anti-Sabbatean campaigns, especially during the 1720s and 30s, respectively. He wrote letters and books against the Sabbatean thinking and had rallying the support of communities throughout the Jewish world at that point in time. It was very, very well documented, which I would recommend everyone to look into. Later, Rabbi Hagiz would be a major figure, in the debates surrounding Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lezata, the famous Ramachal, which is very interesting. Okay, now Rabbi Moshe Hagiz was not just a great Talmudic scholar, but he was very well known and had wide secular learning compared to most rabbis at that point in time. There was various other thinkers that knew him, or historians that knew him well, and it's reported that Rabbi Hagiz understood several languages and was familiar with modern history at that point in time. I think we've got to look at the Mishnah Chacham within regards to this. Hachamim, Mishnah Chachamim. He advocated study, let's say he would study secular sciences, and he had other opinions. I think it's actually interesting. There was very different character reports within regards to him. Some represent him as someone had religious zeal, let's just say. Others as different insights people would have. Rabbi Yeshua Basan, I think he was a mentor and the defender of Rabbi Z'tl at that point in time, and describes Rabbi Hagiz as someone that liked robust, let's just say in terms, robust debate in of itself. And he was like a critic, let's just say, who would say, this Rabbi Yeshua Basan. And very much so. It's actually Rabbi Yaakov Emden. I believe Rabbi Yaakov Emden was a son of the Chacham Tzvi, a very great rabbi. Describes him as a time server, and even as he respected him as a friend of his father, but he had opinions with regards to him also. So he was widely known all over the world. Rabbi Moshe Hagiz was. Let's explore some of the Torah books he would write. He wrote many different Torah colossal works, including Leket HaKemach, which is a novel on the code of Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch, or Chaim and Yoreh De'ah. I think that's printed in Amsterdam in 1697 and 1707 respectively. Also later on in Hamburg in 1711 and 1715. Then there was Sfat Emet he wrote on, let's say, the religious significance of Palestine for Jews. That was I think in the years 1697 and 1707. Then there was the Eleh HaMitzvot, which was based on the Tariag Mitzvot, 613 commandments. That was printed in Amsterdam in 1713, and I think one spec in 1727. Then the Shevet Poshim, which was, let's just say, a book against Nehemiah Hayon. That was printed, I believe, in London in 1714. Then another version of Leket HaKemach we wrote about on the Mishnah, which was in 1726. The Purei Pat HaKemach, which is commentary on the book of Daniel. That was printed in Amsterdam in 1727. Then the Zeror HaYahim, which is a book on ethics, that was in 1728. The Mishnah Chachamim, which was in 1733. The Shtei Halechem, which was in 1733. And the Parshat Ele Maseh, which was a book based on the land of Israel, respectively. That was at a later stage also printed, I think in 1733. I believe there's other works of his that would remain, let's say, unpublished at a later time. He would write new faces to various other books also. I think his writings are signed in a Hamniach, let's just say the letters of Rav Moses Ibn Jacob Hagiz. It's actually interesting. Among Sephardic Jews, the Nun letter was used in its ending form to represent Arabic word Ibn. So friends, we're here. We're learning about the great rabbis of yesteryear. Rabbi Moshe Hagiz was certainly one of them. Please subscribe to the channel, recommend this channel to other people, and wishing you all a fantastic day. Take care everyone, and be well.